Hello guys, gals and gamers, and welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be talking about Persona games, and now that all of the Persona games are on the Switch, this topic is finally relevant to my Nintendo-oriented audience. Great. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to remind you guys to please like and subscribe. This is a very small channel, so every single like, every subscription, every comment down below really means a lot to me. And hey, according to the latest YouTube updates, subscribing is now quick, it's easy and almost pain-free, so there is practically no reason not to subscribe. So go ahead and do that. But now let's get back into the actual topic of this video. So the thing I wanted to talk about today is Persona, and kind of the future of Persona, but not fully. What I want to focus on is Persona 6 and other games by Atlus, save Shin Megami Tensei. Are they going to be multi-platform in the future? That's the big thing here. That's the topic of discussion. And why I want to talk about this is because historically, Persona has been a very PlayStation, very Sony exclusive franchise. But that has, as of recent, changed. Now we have Persona 5 Royal on Nintendo Switch and Xbox as well. Ever since, I think last October, was it? And now, just a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, we got Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden on the Nintendo Switch and Xbox as well. Games that have previously been just for PlayStation consoles, and you had no other way of getting them except buy that old console and get that one old game that is really pricey at this point. So, one, how did we get here? And two, how are we gonna move forward? So, how did we get here? First of all, Persona, as you guys might know, was originally a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei RPG series, which has been running a bit longer than Persona, of course. It has been there for quite a while, I think. So, Persona 1 and 2, not that really special. They were their own RPGs. They were kind of fun. A lot of people like them, but they're not considered main Persona by many people, by some people, mainly by Atlus. So ever since Persona 3, they kind of found their niche. And this was the social simulation aspect of Persona. You know, the calendar mechanic. You go to high school and talk to other students that become your party members and strengthen your bonds with them by just hanging out with them. And that is a really cool mechanic. I like that. And then Persona 4 came out, also very successful, but it was nothing compared to Persona 5. Persona 5 really became something. It was widely considered one of the best games the year it came out. And the year it came out, I'm counting 2016 because that's when it first came out in Japan. 2017 was when it came out worldwide. It kind of got lost in the shuffle because that was the launch year of the Nintendo Switch and many other great games. 2017 was a magical year for games, so many good ones released then, including Persona 5 for the English-speaking audiences. So that was fun. So the game became really popular, and Atlus kind of became a bit shocked on how popular it was. And this got Atlus thinking a bit hey, maybe this franchise is really popular. Atlus has never had such a popular game before. They made some good stuff like Shin Megami Tensei and Etrian Odyssey, don't get me wrong, they're cool. But Persona was on a whole different level, I feel like. And because of the popularity, it got also a bunch of collaborations with other games. Some mobile games which you don't probably care about, but also some pretty notable ones, and I think the most famous is of course having Joker, the main protagonist of Persona 5, be in Super Smash Bros. And that was really cool. That was really cool, and that really launched the popularity of Persona 5 even further, and a lot of the fans of Super Smash Bros. Became wondering like, okay, this widely popular character from a very successful game, when is it coming out on Switch? So that was really a good question, you know? We have this really popular character in a really popular game, but we can't play the game the guy came from. What's up with that? And people started demanding it. A lot of people started demanding it, and the talk about Persona being freed from PlayStation became much, much more common. And that was kind of a wake-up call for Atlus, I think. Of course, there were other things in the way, of course, that made them think about being multi-platform. But I think Joker being part of Smash Bros. Was a big deal. And that kind of launched the conversation like, hey, we really should have this successful franchise on other platforms as well. And people started thinking about Persona 3 and Persona 4, the enhanced editions of those games. They kind of do like Pokemon, where they release a game and then a couple of years later do a better version of it. And Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden were those enhanced editions, but they were almost impossible to find, basically. Persona 3 was for the PlayStation Portable, which sold okay, but Persona 3 Portable was never a game that really sold well. There were not a lot of copies around. It sold okay. So if you wanted to buy a new one, it would cost you a ton of money. So basically, if you wanted to play Persona 3 Portable, the best way to do it was emulation. And it was even worse for Persona 4 Golden, which was a much, much better game in the eyes of the gaming populace. And it was a lot more popular. But it was even harder to get than Persona 3 Portable, because it was on PlayStation Vita, a console that sold like barely more than the Wii U. And most of those sales were in Japan, so it didn't sell well at all, and Persona 4 Golden was a really, really hard game to get your hands on. So after that, Atlus tried something, and what they did was kind of a sneaky reveal. I think it was summertime 2019 or so, when they decided, okay, here we go, let's try out, let's test the waters, let's release Persona 4 Golden on Steam. Let's see how it goes, probably get some extra copies. Boom, it sold almost 1 million copies. And basically over 1 million copies at this point, probably. It was a massive success for a game and a franchise that Atlus, for some reason, they just didn't realize they could make a lot of money with. Like, hey, we have this popular franchise and a popular game that is really hard to get. What if we release that game on other platforms? Wow, what an idea. But for some reason, Atlus didn't really see that. They're a very, I think, a Japanese oriented company, kind of like Nintendo was like 20 years ago, much more so, that only looks at the Japanese market basically and don't really put so much consideration into like the international market. That's just how I feel. That is no, like, that's not a fact, that's just how I feel after observing them for a while, that they might not see a really good opportunity if they have one. That's just what they do. But after that, it was another wake-up call, like, oh my god, this was a success, people love Persona. And from there, they started looking into other platforms as well. And that's why nowadays we have Persona 5 Royal on Nintendo Switch, Steam, Xbox, including Game Pass, and PlayStation 5, of course. And then also, now we have Persona 3 Portable the enhanced edition of Persona 3, which was previously really hard to get your hands on, and Persona 4 Golden, which is also a really good bonus on Xbox, on Nintendo Switch, everywhere you can think of basically. They have those, and that is great. But moving on from here, will Persona 6 be multi-platform? And that is kind of a difficult discussion to have, because I don't know the inner workings of how Atlus makes its games or how those games get funded, because there is kind of a theory out there that PlayStation kind of has a stranglehold on Persona, a little bit so, because they have partly funded those games. So of course they want some exclusive rights to those games. PlayStation often does a lot of like these timed exclusive things, like for the first year you can only get this game on a PlayStation console. It might appear on like Steam or something, but for consoles only on PlayStation. Or sometimes I think with Call of Duty that used to do, like there's some completely exclusive DLC or costumes, like in Marvel's Avengers I think they had Spider-Man only appear on the Sony console because Spider-Man is a Sony character, quote unquote. But will this affect Persona? That we kind of don't know yet, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I think it's looking fairly positive, because Atlus has finally realized that these games make a lot of money for them, and it is their cash cow. Their Mario is Persona. And of course they want to take full advantage of that. So even if like Sony funds a part of that game, and even if there is some timed exclusivity there, I don't think it will be as bad as we had with Persona 5, and those games would come out on other platforms a bit sooner, or maybe we will have to wait up for the enhanced edition again. And another thing that we kind of have to wait and see how it goes is the sales numbers of also Persona 5 Royal, but also Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden on other platforms. Where does it sell the best? Because if it turns out that we released Persona 5 Royal, Golden, Portable on all of these consoles, and it used to be a Sony franchise, but then it ends up that it sells the best on Nintendo Switch, say, then Atlus might be reconsidering the whole deal. Like, okay, we released these at the same time on all platforms, and this, it sold like double the amount that other consoles did. So of course we want to invest in porting these games to that console in the future. So that might be the case. But what about other Atlus games? Because kind of a similar thing that happened with Persona is also happening with Shin Megami Tensei. Instead of being PlayStation exclusive, a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games are Nintendo exclusive. You have the latest one in the series, which is Shin Megami Tensei 5, being completely Nintendo Switch exclusive, and then there are other Shin Megami Tensei games, like I think a lot of 3DS games are only for Nintendo 3DS and you can't get them anywhere else. And for this, I think Atlus will be a bit more hesitant to release them multi-platform, because they probably have some kind of a deal with Nintendo, and they know that even though Persona used to be a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, it has vastly bigger target audience, and a lot more people care about Persona than Shin Megami Tensei. So I wouldn't say for Shin Megami Tensei it would be as likely as it is for Persona. But now at this point, I want to know what you think. What do you think Persona 6 will be like? Do you think it will be multi-platform? When will it release? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.